We're joined now by the Shadow City Minister, part of Labour's Shadow team covering the Treasury and economic matters, Jonathan Reynolds. He's also a member of Labour's Brexit team too. So 2 jobs for the price of 1. Welcome to the programme. What is the evidence that the government wants to, quote, cut a deal for finance and ignore small businesses and manufacturers?
Well, John's referring to the story that was in the Financial Times, I think, last week about the possibility of a specific deal for the City for financial services cut before the rest of the deal is ready. And I just want to be clear, what John said today was that when we get this Brexit deal in place, it surely has to cover all of the economy. Right. It can't cover specific sectors. It can't be done piece by piece.
But this speech is based on an unsourced story in the Financial Times, because I can find no government minister on record saying that that's what they want to do. Is that right? John's
putting out the Labour position, which is that it must cover all of the economy. That's a reasonable position.
And what, given that we can't find anybody saying we need to cut a deal just for finance on the record, what's the evidence that the government doesn't want to take into account manufacturers, given the news from Nissan this morning?
Well, we don't know what the government wants to take into account because it won't tell us. It won't tell us their negotiating strategy. It won't bring that to Parliament. And in relation to Nissan, look, I grew up quite close to that factory. It's fantastic news that those models are going to be made there. But you can't do a deal like this, Andrew, factory by factory, going from shop floor to shop floor. Other car manufacturers are now...
It's with a company. It's not factory to factory. It's with a company. It's with one of the biggest companies in the world. Now, one of the other biggest car companies is Jaguar and Tata. Are you saying that we couldn't do a deal with them?
Well, they're already asking. I think Toyota have already issued a
statement.
So
what I don't understand. But since you said, since the Shadow Chancellor said the government's ignoring manufacturers, the evidence from Nissan today and other talks are going would suggest that there's no evidence for that.
No, I'd say the evidence is that what we have is chaos. We don't know what the position is from the government. They won't tell us what it is.
Hold on, Mr. Reynolds.
You can't do it company by company. You've got to tell this country what it is.
If there was chaos, why would Nissan, which can go anywhere in the world, why would it make this massive investment in a chaotic country?
It can make the investment because it's had support and assurances. That's what their state.
So that's not chaos.
Yes, but you can't do that company by company. You've got to tell. Is every small business going to get that
you've said that. What I'm trying to get to confront. There isn't. If there was chaos in this country, Nissan wouldn't come near here.
Well, the government's approach is chaotic, and I think it's been counterproductive. They should be franker with the British people as to what their negotiating strategy will be.
But John McDonnell said in July that he wouldn't support any exit deal that didn't involve passporting for the financial sector, which allows them to operate throughout Europe. Well, you won't get that unless you offer some privileged position for finance as well. So what's the difference?
Well, you will need to achieve some sort of arrangement which has comparable access for financial services. So that will be something which isn't a passport, but is as useful.
So you'll need to cut a deal for finance?
Well, as part of an overall deal, yes.
But what he's complaining about is that the government's trying to cut a deal for finance, though we have no evidence for it.
Not just for that sector at that one time, Andrew. It's got to be about tying up the interests of the whole of the economy.
But there's no evidence that the government's doing that just to...
well, we don't have that evidence. We don't have their strategy. They're not willing to tell us.
So it's an Aunt Sally, isn't it?
No, it's a very clear problem that if the government can tell Nissan what its strategy is, why can't it tell the House of Commons and the rest of the country?
Why would you not want to cut a deal for finance, given how important it is to the British economy?
Because, and this is what people in the city will tell you, to get the best deal, you need to get all the interests in the economy lined up together. You've got to tie in, for instance, German exporting goods to our need to get that access for financial services. That is how we'll get the best deal. It's not just about which parts of our economy should get favourable treatment. It's about how we'll get the best deal for the country.
I come again to... What evidence do you have that the government is not proceeding on a broad front, that its intention is to do that with manufacturing, with small businesses and with finance?
Because it won't tell us. All it will tell us so
not
far
telling you is different.
All we've had so far is we want lists of foreign workers damaging our reputation abroad. They won't confirm the status of EU nationals. They won't confirm what terms financial services will have. We've got Tory MPs attacking the Governor of the Bank of England. This is not a good position for the UK to be.
Now, at the Labour conference, Mr Corbyn put your party on an election footing, that he said he thought there would be a snap election early next year. So it's important that we know what your party stands for, since we might be only a couple of months from an election. Is it Labour policy to remain a member of the single market?
No, it's the policy to try and achieve the fullest possible access to the single market. But we recognise, as your previous guest said, we respect the vote, and that's got to be the basis about which we proceed.
Well, I'm grateful for that, because that's a clear answer, but it's not what we've had from other Labour politicians, including your boss. John McDonnell said last month that continued single market membership would be preferable. Emily Thornby described it as very important, and your shadow chief secretary described it as a red line. So are you this morning restating Labour policy more accurately and clearer, that membership is not the policy?
I'm confident what I've just told you is the decision of the Shadow Cabinet.
So it's changed from what Mr McDonnell and Ms Thornby and the Chief Secretary said only recently?
Well, the policy is to try and achieve the fullest possible access to the single market.
Which is the government,
That will retain.
which is the government policy too, isn't
Perhaps they'll tell us.
it? What's your policy on immigration from the Europe?
There's no doubt that concerns about immigration played a significant part in the referendum. Anyone who has been out canvassing for that referendum will have experienced that.
What's your
what
policy?
we are seeking is the means to address those concerns in terms of mitigating the impact on public services, addressing things like the undercutting of wages and conditions. But we will prioritise, Andrew, the economy first.
Right.
That is the principle about which we proceed on our...
When we leave the European Union, at the moment, we know because of the free movement that people can come here as they see fit, and of course we can go there as well. That's part of the whole free movement of the European Union. When we leave, though, we will need a policy to determine who can come here and who won't. What will that policy be?
Well, it'll be about making sure our industries can still recruit skilled labour, which is a huge part of it. There'll clearly need to be some element of unskilled labour that still comes to this country. But we won't scapegoat migrants, as we've seen some parts of the right in this country.
No, I wouldn't expect you to do that at all. But will you put a limit on numbers? At the moment, the net migration from the EU is about 180,000, I think the latest figures. Will you seek to reduce that, keep it the same, increase it?
Look, I think in terms of our wider economic plans, you would see a reduction in immigration just because of the types of investment and the priorities we want to make. But we're not going to put numbers on it, Andrew. That is a fool's game. The numbers in terms of immigration depend on the relative strength of the economy.
Well, one final
about what other
question
countries are doing as well.
Because you are speaking generalities. In what way would your policy post our membership be different from now?
In terms of immigration?
Yes.
Well, it will be, I think, something which is better able to respond to the impact on public services and better able to prevent wage rates declining because of the undercutting of terms and conditions. That's what the British public see. They're not so worried about immigration in terms of what it means for the city and high-skilled immigration. It's about the impact on the labour market and about public services, and I do think we can address that.
Margaret Prosser, do you accept now that given that it's the government's position that we don't want to be under the European Court's jurisdiction, that we want some control on movement, so not total free movement, and we want to be able to make our own free trade deals, that you add these three things together, we can still have access to the single market, but we can't be a member of the single market. Do you accept that?
I can't see the other 27 countries in Europe being happy about that. Why would they agree that we should have terms which are, some would say, much more favourable than the terms they have? I can't say, Germany, if you look at the, not just the movement of labour around Europe, but the refugee problem, etc., crisis, other countries in Europe have taken far, far more people than us. And, why would you, if you were a leader, Angela Merkel, for example, or anybody in Germany, say, oh, OK, UK, you go over there and you do something completely different. We're still happy to trade with you. I mean, so it's unrealistic.
The game is now full access, as much access as you can get.
Absolutely.
OK, which is what Mr. Rans was saying. Thank you.